Oh, and we are live. If anybody's out there, can you tell me if I got sound or if you can see me okay? This will be an outdoor open chat if anybody would like to join. Not sure what I'll be talking about today. Could be up in the air. It's been a while since I've put out any content. As you can imagine, life has gotten in the way a little bit. Not a lot of free time between work and a almost 1-year-old child at home. So I am outdoors. In case you're wondering, I have external Wi-Fi card to extend my signal to the router that's all the way in the basement. And of course, I got my coffee because if we're going to be talking Linux, you need coffee. Fix that again. Yeah, so what have I been up to lately? Well, as far as Linux is concerned, I'm still running Arch, by the way. Um, Specifically with i3. I've been playing around with other desktop environments, see what's going on with them. And I mean, you guys know I'm not a coder or a developer or anything like that, but there's something about i3 I just can't put my finger on it. It's just really snappy. It's really stable. It's really So what have I done? I've figured out how to pimp out my or pimp my Rofi, and figured out how to get it to launch actual applications instead of just running commands. And it shows icons now. And here, I'll show you what I mean. If I can. Good news is when I'm out here, I'm only using one monitor. So if I share the screen, it doesn't, do its thing. But anyway, this is what Rofi looks like for me now. And I can go down the menu, looking for whatever I need. Or if I hit Mod D, it brings up drun Rofi. If I hit Mod Shift D, it brings up run. So I can still run like a command through this way. And let me see if I can remember how I set this one to. Yep. So I set it for mod X. The key binding will give me a window selector. So I can go through here, whichever application I choose, it'll automatically jump me to that workspace in that application, which is pretty sweet. Matter of fact, let me get back to, where was it? Would have been here. Okay. So if I get the time, I might do a video on Linux Mint. I've been meaning to touch on this subject. I know it's kind of old news, but um, the whole idea of oh, Linux Mint should die. Linux Mint should die. Look, I'm gonna level with you here. Once all that stuff started coming out, I had the sudden urge to download and try out Linux Mint. So that's what I did. I downloaded it. I installed it on my other laptop, not on this one. This one's always going to be Arch, and it hasn't broken yet. So that's what I'm staying with for now. But I put Linux Mint on my other machine to purposely look for reasons why it should die, and I couldn't find any. Now, don't get me wrong. I found reasons why it's not my distro of choice, right? Why it wouldn't work for what I do, and the reasons for that are kind of childish, right? Like, I like to play some retro games, and if you go into the Mint repositories, they're not exactly up to date on some of the source ports for some of those games, like the Doomsday Engine or the GZ Doom or whatever, the stuff that I use to play those kinds of games. And I find that the older versions have issues that were worked out in the newer versions, and I just think it would be a little easier if I. And there's other things that, like, I don't think Mint would be my cup of tea. But that being said, if Arch was not an option, if it was between, I don't know, Mint or Ubuntu, say those are the only two Linuxes you can choose from, I would pick Mint. I would pick it in a heartbeat, because using it, I find it to be a lot smoother an experience than Ubuntu. And they yank out some of the not so nice things about Ubuntu, like the telemetry, which isn't, it's not the worst, but it's not good either to have that in there. And I don't like the idea of Amazon being default on my computer. I don't like Amazon as going in my start menu or my dash or whatever Ubuntu calls that thing. And Mint rips those things out, and while keeping the benefits of Ubuntu, all the Ubuntu repos, the massive software availability for it. And I think that Mint, Cinnamon in particular, is a better desktop environment than GNOME or Unity. And the reason for that, it just feels smoother to me. It feels quicker, not by much. And here's the thing about Cinnamon, that if I build up a Cinnamon desktop environment, whether on Arch or Mint or whatever, and I put a bunch of extensions on it, I know they're not gonna crash in the next release. Um, it's just little things like that. And I think that Mint is a different enough project it's not an Ubuntu clone. It's its own thing, and Linux Mint Debian is their backup plan. They're very unique in the way that they do their project. And if anything, I would tell them try to focus more on your Debian edition, because Ubuntu might start doing things that you can't yank out. And that's just my take on it. Now, would I use Linux Mint? Probably not. I've gotten too used to the Pac-Man package manager, the Arch way of doing things, the AUR, etc. And I'm just not used to it anymore. I'm not like, maybe I'm just an old dog now, and I've just like settled in my ways or whatever. But yeah, Arch is my thing. Arch is my like Arch family of distros, I would say, because I do like Manjaro too as a distro. And by the way, I would say that Manjaro is not an Arch clone either. Right? It's based on Arch for sure, but they have their own curated repos. They with software in them that you can only find in an AUR if you're running vanilla Arch. And then there are things in the Manjaro repos that you can't even find in the AUR. And so I would say that to say that just because a distribution is based on another one, that doesn't make it a clone. And that doesn't make it not original. Right? Like Ubuntu is based on Debian. Does that make Ubuntu a Debian clone? No. It made it easier to install it. It made it easier to manage the packages. Some distros bring hardware detection. Some distros make it easier to install, let's say, proprietary drivers on your system. Don't get me wrong. There are distros out there that are just clones of whatever it's based on, with a different wallpaper and a different set of applications installed. And those ones I don't think should exist. I mean, if you want to do it as like a side project to learn, whatever. But like, there's nothing, and like, I don't know. Is there anybody watching out there, or am I just talking to myself? Yeah, it'll go up later anyway. I guess I'll check out Distro Watch, see if anything is trending. A new PC Linux OS. Is that KDE? PC Linux OS is a user-friendly distro with out of the box. This is a weird one, I think. It uses an RPM, but it uses apt to manage RPMs. I've never seen that in the distro, and that I would think that'd be kind of confusing, because I'm used to using apt for Debian packages, and I don't know. I think the Red Hat family has a different package manager altogether for RPMs. So I don't know if Zipper or DNF can install them manually. But I'm pretty sure it's like a similar way to like dpkg I tac I and just install the deb package. I think there's a command rpm tac I and you can manually install an rpm package on a Red Hat system. On Arch, the way you would manually install a tarball, if it's properly packaged for an Arch system, is you would run pacman tac u, capital U, then the tarball, and it'll automatically install it. Fortunately, we don't have to do that too often because everything is available through regular package management or the AUR, and you could just use an AUR helper to get that. And thankfully, there's not a lot of stuff we have to manually install on Arch. But there are a few things. One in particular that I installed manually was a package called PackUI that it's almost like an ncurses type deal to manage your packages, and it was taken out of the AUR. It's not available in the main repos, but it was, however, available in Manjaro repos. And so what I did was I went to the Manjaro repos, found the package, downloaded it, and then I installed it manually. And it installed and it's working. The only thing, it won't stay up to date with the rest of my packages. And so that kind of a deal breaker is, honestly, it's little things like that that make me wonder if Manjaro is a better option for an Arch user, or for me. Like, I just try to keep my distro as close to the vanilla as I can. Like, I don't like to run a system based on a system based on a system based on another system. Then you got like a million points of failure where it can go, a million forms I would have to look at. And like, okay, let's say I'm on Mint, and Mint is based on Ubuntu, which Ubuntu is based on Debian. And so Mint is the grandson in that whole thing, and Debian's the granddad. Now, let's say something goes wrong on my Mint system. I'm not saying it will. Mint's a pretty good system. They've got their act together pretty much. But let's say I can't get something to work, or something goes wrong, something breaks. Well, the first step is look at the Mint forums. If I can't find it there, okay, well, here I gotta go figure out which Ubuntu this Mint is based on. Go to that Ubuntu forum. If I can't find it there, I gotta go to Debian. If I can't find it, I gotta figure out what did Ubuntu do to tweak the Debian? What did Mint do to tweak Ubuntu or Debian? Whereas if I'm running, let's say, just plain vanilla Debian, for example, there's literally just one forum I have to go to, Debian's forum. And if I'm running Arch, I just gotta go to the Arch forums. And as soon as all the elitists are done yelling RTFM, at least one of them comes up with a solution, right? I mean, which, by the way, tell me what you think about this. You all know how pretentious Apple users can be, right? They just buy an expensive laptop to go sit at a coffee shop and show off their status. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a way to put a light up A on Arch logo. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to put it on the back of my laptop. I'm going to find a way to backlight it. Then I'm going to go sit at a coffee shop and tell all the Mac users, by the way, I use Arch. I'll be just as pretentious as they are. And I'm just going to look at your money. Okay, I run Arch. And just see Arch versus Mac Wars. Uh, no, I mean I kid around like that, but seriously, if you're watching this and you're on the Arch in the Arch community, please do not shoot our community in the foot by being an elitist. Um, Arch is a great system, but the installation process is a hurdle for many people. It was for me. I tore my hair out many nights, and that's just one of the things you got to understand. It is a learning process for people, and what got me hooked on it was that yeah, certain things are easier in it, and namely, um, all the dependencies are taken care of. I never have to reinstall my system when a new version comes out. I like the rolling release model. Certain things are just a lot smoother and a lot easier with Arch and Arch-based distros. But we have this nasty habit of taking our Glock 45 or whatever and just shooting ourselves in the foot. When we tell people how great Arch is, who are using Ubuntu or some new user-friendly distro, and we tell them, "Oh, that's for noobs. You should be using Arch." And they come to Arch and they have a question and they go on the forum and you tell them, "RTFM, go back to Ubuntu, you noob." Guess what? You just shot yourself in the foot. Why did you recommend that guy go to Arch if you were just gonna kick him out the second he asked a question? Believe me, I do not use Arch for the forums. There are other reasons why I stuck to it. Um, yeah. I mean, even sir, I think when it comes to Arch though, the Arch installers, the ones that are not that far from vanilla Arch, they have their place too for to help people get used to Arch. Is there anybody else live that I should know about? Looks like Toss just ended a live stream. Is that where everybody is? Or was? It says here I got two watching. One of them is me monitoring it, so there's one other person out there watching me rant. If you're out there and you're new to Linux or you want to know about it, just say hi. Yeah, so it's like I said, I am outdoors. Nature in all its glory. Just enjoying the summer. It's been kind of a wet summer lately, at least for me here in Western Massachusetts. It's been kind of, one day it's pouring, the next day it's sunny, and Hasn't really gotten that warm around here yet. Like 80s maybe. The highest. 70s on average now. It kind of stinks. I like the heat. I like the summer. I really don't like the winter. Because I don't like the cold. Thinking about moving south to maybe get away from the winter, or at least have shorter ones. So, if there's anybody new to Linux, you can say hi. I try to I try to keep my stuff informative for both new users and like I'm not an advanced user. I just like kind of figured out certain things, how to do certain things. See if there's anything interesting on MeWe. Well, I joined a bunch of I am on MeWe. If anybody would like to add me on there, I go by the same name on YouTube, Benjamin Eldridge. Um, and basically, I tried to join a bunch of Linux groups, and I also found a Flat Earthers group, which that's fun. Neverwhere. Never heard of it. Is that a distro or is that an application like an emulator kind of thing? By the way, welcome Menzo. Cruzinga. I probably just butchered that name. I'm sorry. Neverwhere. Oh, it's a cloud thing, huh? Hmm. Oh, an OS. Oh, wow. Neverwhere gives the Chromebook experience the best chance it ever has for enterprise adoption. Cloud-ready enterprise could be the desktop OS of the future. Huh. That's interesting. I might take a look at this distro. Maybe put it in a virtual machine and see what it's about. This is interesting. Um. Oh, they're not all free. Ah, Chrome OS clone. Yeah. Well, it looks like that's what they're saying is that it's meant to put to make Chrome OS enterprise ready. But I think Chrome OS could be enterprise ready. Like it's not my cup of tea, right? Like it's Google. They're tracking everything you do, and that'll keep me from using Chrome as a daily driver. I say that as I'm streaming on YouTube. I realize this, and I did kind of fall into the Google hole. Like I made my Gmail account 10 years ago, and I have like 20,000 emails on it. I did not keep up with it for the longest time, and now it's all there, and it'll be impossible for me to transfer, everything that I used to do to another mailing service, and um, I'm looking at a Proton Mail. One of the issues with Proton Mail for me is that at least the last time I tried it, it wouldn't work with email clients. So it wouldn't work with Thunderbird, and I've been using NeoMut as my um, mail client of choice for a while now. It's like a terminal-based email client. It's very snappy, very fast. It won't display like HTML documents that well, but that's okay because all I need is the text from it. I just need to know what you're trying to tell me. I don't need to see all the emojis and crap that you send me. Oh, not everything supports it. Well, I have a spare laptop here, so if it blows it up, that's fine. Um, um, or if I put in a virtual box, if it blows up the virtual box, and I'll just shed a tear for the virtual box. Also, it runs Flatpak and Firefox. Well, that's a good idea. And a couple weeks back, or maybe it was last week, we were talking about Google Chrome OS being the Linux standard, the flagship Linux standard, and I was on there with a couple other guys named Total OS Today. I don't know if you follow him, but good channel there. And Tom from Switch to Linux hopped into the video chat as well. And we both voiced concerns about Google being the being the flagship for Linux, right? Like the whole point of Linux is privacy, choice, freedom, and Google doesn't really represent those things. I don't think they make a good um, ambassador of what Linux really is, in my opinion. Um, and one of the things that Tom brought up was if they would remove the necessity to have a Google account to run it and allow you to install other browsers on it, right, like Firefox. And it sounds like this system that you're talking about allows for that. So I mean, it seems like that'd be a step in the right direction with this with that distro, at least in my opinion. Like, I mean, I know I have to try to de-Googlify my life, but it is hard. It is hard, especially when everything you do revolves around that one Gmail account. I got a ton of stuff on my Google Drive. You know, yeah, yeah, I agree with that, man. So not everyone will see it that way. When I try to give somebody somebody new onto Linux, I try to um put it on either Mint or Manjaro or a distro like that. Like, not Ubuntu because they have Amazon and tied to it. And it's like if I give you a Linux distro, I want to show you that Linux is different, and I want to show you how it's different. Um, and so I don't think that Chrome really shows that here, Linux is different. We actually respect your privacy, but we're gonna collect all your data. It's like, well, no, you don't. You don't represent the Linux philosophy, the FOSS philosophy. Yeah, Chrome OS is a good system. Don't get me wrong. I think it works. I played with it once. A buddy of mine wanted me to see what I could do with it, It booted up like in no time flat. I had to log in with my Gmail account. Um, and it seemed to work very well for what it did. But I just need for me personally, I need a system that's not completely web centric. Like I like to have the files that I have. I like to have stored on my system, um, locally, and I like to have most of my stuff on a local system, like my applications and stuff like that. Um, so for that, I run a ThinkPad W530, and this thing has an Menzo. I agree with that. I agree. Linux Mint. It's not my first choice, right? Like me personally, I like to have a system that stays a little more up to date with its packages. But that being said, that doesn't mean. Uh oh. Is my camera? Uh, yeah. Linux Mint is a very decent system. I was talking about that earlier today. I was chiming in on my opinions on it, and like, matter of fact, I installed it on my spare laptop when all this hullabaloo came out because I was trying to find out, like, okay, why should it die? And I found reasons why it's not my cup of tea, right? Like why it's not like what I would use on a daily basis. But that it's all personal preference, and it's rock solid stable. It works fine for what it does. It's a different enough project from Ubuntu to be called a different project. It's not just another Ubuntu clone like the Satanic Edition or the Hannah Montana Edition or one of those fruity whatever clones of Ubuntu with just a different wallpaper and a different theme setup. Right? It's a different enough project. It's like, yes, it's based on Ubuntu, but there are a lot of things in Ubuntu that I don't like. For example, Amazon is way too close to it for my taste. I don't need Amazon ads in my dash. If I'm looking to buy something on Amazon, I will go to Amazon and look for what I'm looking for. I don't need things in my start menu. Um, but I get it. Ubuntu needs to make money, and I don't know how I feel about their telemetry. Like they track what you use. They at least publish they at least tell you that they're doing this and they publish the results. So it's not as bad as Windows is. There is a clear difference between what Ubuntu is doing and what Windows is doing with telemetry. But I still don't like being watched. I'm one of those kind of conspiracy nuts, right? Like I just don't like the idea of someone watching everything that I do. Um, but and Linux Mint rips that stuff out, and while keeping the Ubuntu repositories available, so you have access to a vast like array of software. While and Linux Mint, in my opinion, is a lot smoother of an experience than Ubuntu, and like I prefer it over Ubuntu any day. I prefer Linux Mint over Ubuntu any day, and like it's not just Ubuntu with a Cinnamon desktop environment. That's just not fair. The way that it makes its money too. It's completely community driven, and so anybody gets up and says, "Oh, Linux Mint should die." It's like, well, it's not up to you. It's up to the community. It's community, and its community thinks it has a place in the world because they give them enough money to keep such a decent project going. And so, like, it's not up to us whether it dies or not. It's up to its community, and its community speaks with much dinero. Yeah, yeah, man. So that's one of the things that keeps me on in the Arch family is the fact that Arch is rolling. Um, I find for my personal use that letting packages sit and age and get older can lead to breakages too, as well as just keep keeping things up to date. You know, people like to say that rolling releases are unstable, that it can crash any day, and it's true. You know, any distro can crash and go away. Um, but I've had less bugs in Arch than I've had in fixed releases, um, dependency wise, package wise. So for me, I do like a rolling release, but I do understand why people would want a static release in the sense that they don't want features to change overnight, right? Like they get used to the certain way that an application works, and all of a sudden they change it overnight. Mm-hmm. Median PC. Is that a typo or is that a the actual model? Is it? Could it be the architecture of this? Is it an ARM-based PC? Because if it's ARM, our Arch is only available for 64-bit. Like the official um, Arch is only available for 64-bit. But there is a community-driven ARM-based, I think. Oh, hmm. So did you? Is it the Arch base or is it just vanilla Arch? Did you try Manjaro or some other Arch-based distro on it? See if it'll work. Because installing Arch, it doesn't have hardware detection, right? Like you have to know what's on it and install the proper drivers um, as you go. But like Manjaro has some kind of hardware detection, so I mean, you might have better luck with that. And Manjaro is great because it's easy to install and it brings the power of Arch to the average user. I mean, I'm not an Arch purist by any standard. Not one of those people like, oh, you have to install it the Arch way. No, I want to bring the power of Arch to everybody. Oh, it's a graphics card. What is it, NVIDIA? Yeah. This machine here that I'm on now is has an NVIDIA Optimus. It has NVIDIA Quadro K2000 something. It's nothing special. It's got 2 gigs of RAM on it, and it works for what I'm doing. Um, but it's got something called an Optimus on it, and it basically allows you to change between the Intel graphics and the NVIDIA graphics. And that was a pain in the butt to get set up for me on this one. Um, a package I installed that really helped out was it's in the AUR. It's called Optimist Manager, and it was the only way to get my system to behave properly with the NVIDIA Optimus. I just keep it turned on. I just keep the Optimus turned on. Um, it's because it's the only. Um, which NVIDIA um, which NVIDIA driver did you install? Because if you install the NVIDIA DKMS version of it, that is kernel agnostic or kernel whatever. It doesn't break every time a kernel update rolls through. I had the same problem with Broadcom chipset. Like every time Arch pushed a kernel update, I would get a kernel panic because the devs of that particular driver couldn't patch it fast enough. The way I fixed that was by never buying a laptop with Broadcom in it again. Yeah, no, I mean, to each their own. If it works, it works, you know. There's certain things I can't do because of the NVIDIA graphics card in here. I can't use Wayland, which means I can't even try out the Sway window manager. $430. Well, hey, I mean, if Ubuntu works, it works, you know. I'll never knock somebody for using a different distro. No matter. I mean, if it works on your system, it works. Because Ubuntu, I think they have that, right? They have that um additional drivers thing, so you can so that's what Ubuntu installed on it. Because like my graphics card isn't that new. This is a 10-year-old machine that I bought here. Just built like a tank, so it works fine. But I installed the NVIDIA DKMS drivers, and I set up the config files the way that the Arch Wiki, demanded. I RTFM'd, and certain things were out of date a little bit, so I had to change a few things up in it. But once I got all the config files set up properly, the proper drivers, and by the way, I have the newest driver installed here. It's NVIDIA DKMS. It's not like a legacy or anything like that. And it works just fine. It boots up. I have to keep it in NVIDIA mode because if I have it plugged in downstairs to my external monitor, that's the only way it recognizes it, is if it's in NVIDIA mode. I assume it's because NVIDIA controls the VGA port. I mean, it's not the most powerful graphics card, but it runs games like Quake 4, Rage. It runs fine. Not Rage 2, but the first Rage. It runs perfectly fine. You think Doom 3, the BFG edition, it runs just fine. Doom 2016, I had to drop the resolution down to 720p to get 40 frame rates a second. That game was chugging. Wouldn't even dream of streaming while trying to play something like that. No, that's just never happened. Yeah, I mean, Ubuntu is a good distribution. Like, I'm not knocking it for not being good. Like, if I knock it, it's for it's because I think they're a little too close. I think Canonical is too close with Amazon, and I know that Amazon is a data collecting company. They collect your data of what you buy on their sites. They're after your data. So why would they? Okay. So it's like, um, why would they stop trying to collect your data from Ubuntu users, right? Like, why would they stop that? It just doesn't make sense. So I mean, I don't know. That's one of the things I like about Mint is that they yanked out all the Amazon garbage from Ubuntu. That alone makes it their own project. Yes, I'll be right back too. I'm gonna go refill my coffee. I'll Okay, Menzo. I'll be right back, guys. Yeah, so if anybody jumps on and wants to join in the chat, they can do so. Um, just hit me up, and when I get back, I'll shoot you a link. Oh. I have returned. Uh, yeah, so if anybody's just joining me, I just noticed a carpenter bee. What happened on the day that I decided to stream outside? Anyway, I am streaming outdoors. Um, I'll be out here as long as weather permits it. Just because the weather is nice, and it doesn't seem like we're gonna get that too many nice ones. At least not this year. Looks like it's fixing to be another wet summer for me here. Um, but yeah, if there's anybody out there, just join me. I just ran to get a refill on my coffee. I'm back now. Um, it's really a random chat. Nothing too in particular. I did talk a little bit about my thoughts on Linux Mint. Talked a little bit about um, what I've been doing with Rofi, the um, basically the application launcher that I use with i3. Nice little breeze coming through here now. Give it a couple minutes, it'll turn into a hurricane. I mean, I live in New England. You know what they say about the weather here in New England? If you don't like it, just wait a minute. Oh, welcome back, Menzo. Um, trying to think up topics to talk about. See, maybe go at distrowatch.com. I really should maybe get a, a news feed ticker or something. Hmm. See if there's anything new on It's Foss. Graviton, a minimalist open source code editor. Well, I'm not a coder, not in a grand scheme of things. Like, I don't know if I can make any use of that. I mean, the most that I've done when it comes to coding is print function, hello world, um, a couple i3 blocks. I did a lot of trial and error to see. Um, hey, don't worry about it, Enzo. Um, sorry for my bad English too. We're not. Um, yeah. Um, you're from Holland. Wow. Yeah. So here, I mean, Menzo, I'm trying to learn how to code myself. Um, However, I keep hitting roadblocks when I try. Like, um, like I might be able to figure out like a few things here and there. Like, okay, I'll take like to be honest, all my i3 blocks, at least most of them, I took from Luke Smith's GitHub page. Some of them wouldn't work with my system or my particular setup, so I tried. So I did a lot of trial and error. Like I don't know, like line by line or character by character what's going on, but what I basically did was I kept deleting code to see which piece function did what I wanted, what I was looking for, and so I used that. I found a piece that made an i3 block react to a click, and then I just typed in the command that I wanted it to do when it was clicked. Um, I had to I copied and pasted one that allows me to bind um, a keyboard shortcut to start recording my desktop. I can't live stream with it. If I want to do a pre-recorded thing, I can hit Mod Shift and T, and I am screen sharing, so it should show up, right? No, Mod T starts it, and you see how that red thing popped up in the middle there? That means it's recording. And if I hit Mod Shift T, it kills it. Um, that I do like. I like. Um, I'm trying to challenge myself so I can learn. I mean, like I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn how to do C because that's what Linux is written in. Um, yeah, I'm more of a maintainer. Like not a maintainer of packages, but like um, I went to trade school for computer networking, and I got my certs in Microsoft XP. I got it in Windows XP. I got Net Plus and A Plus. Um, so that I can take a computer apart, put it back together. I can um, do a lot of networking stuff. I know how a network works. Coding is one of the few things that like I haven't really done much in. I'm not skilled at all in it. And like I mean I'm trying to learn C. Like C is like the one that I want to learn because it's what Linux is written in. And I feel like I would get more out of it if I learned like that one. But um so far it's just like some of the textbooks I get, they don't um yeah, yeah, me too. But a lot of the videos don't really go into detail what they're doing either. Like they'll just punch in a code. It's like I'm the guy that I have to raise my hand and ask what every little thing is there, what it's doing. Um, there's one concept in programming that I didn't understand at first. I kind of get it now. Um, where like when the line starts, they say, okay, um, integer I equals 1 or 4 or whatever. Then later on down, they'll start an if statement, and all of a sudden, I equals a different number. And I'm just like, wait a minute, you already declared it this, you can't make it this. And the book would not explain it right. None of the videos I saw explained it right until it clicked in my head. okay, they can change the value going through the code. They could change the value of an integer down the line. It's like, why didn't they just say that in the first place? I would have gotten it. I would have understood it right there. And I mean, I'm not that great at math either, so like, that's another issue. Is that if I'm gonna write a piece of code, I have to understand the formula in English first before I can put it into C or whatever. Um, so like, um, I think my coding skills would just go as far as my brain will allow it. Um, but I mean, all I want to do is to understand at least the basics. Like, okay, how do I structure it? How do I compile it? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do and there's this one website I went to called Tutorials Point that they have a lot of free courses on that kind of stuff. Um, I downloaded a textbook that it's a PDF file, and it's like shows the basics of coding, and and it went through three languages, the basics of three. It went through C, Java, and Python, and so it would go through like, okay, here's how you print hello world in C. Here's how you accomplish the same thing in Java. Here's how you accomplish the same thing in Python. And like it will go through like the basics of each one, show you how to compile it, how to interpret it if it's Python. And yeah, some of it was outdated. One of its Java codes, I copied and pasted it into the text file, compiled it, and I kept getting the same errors. Yeah, I don't really have. I mean, there are schools around here, but like I would have to dedicate myself to get it and get a degree to do it. And I don't care about getting the degree or even the certification. I just want to learn how to do it. I just want the knowledge at this point. Because I mean, I don't know about there in Holland, but here in the States, college has become a bit of a political, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I should get into that on my channel here, but no, it's become a bit of a scam here. Yeah, I'm trying to learn from YouTube. Um, a lot of this stuff I'm trying to learn from. I mean, like if I really want to, I can open up a C script or Python script or something, and I can make it perform like a mathematical equation if I needed to. Compile it, run it, and get my answer. Um, what I really need to get into is like the C libraries, I guess, and like I guess how to make like a GUI C program. Cause like that's part of it too. Is like I don't know how to make a graphical program. I'm not too good with the scan function either. Like the textbook didn't even cover the scan function. It was just like, okay, here we're going to define all these things. We're going to put it through a crazy math problem. We're not going to tell you all the things that's going on here. We're not going to. We're just going to okay, here's what's happening. Here's the code. It's like, well, okay. But there were pieces of it that didn't make sense in my brain for like, why is this here? Why is that here? Why is this here? And sometimes seeing it, sometimes that textbook was kind of smart in the way that it did it, but it having three the three languages side by side, C, Java, and Python, because if something didn't make sense to me in C, I could see the same function in Java and say, okay, that makes sense in Java, so this is what this means in C, or this makes sense in Python, so I can kind of see what's going on here in Java or whatever. Um, like that can sometimes help. Because if it doesn't make sense in one programming language, it might make sense to you in the other one. But no, my main focus is I want to really try to learn C. Like, well, Python is great and all, and uh, when I hear Java is not that popular anymore, but like C's been around forever, and it's it's what Linux was, and Unix in particular was written in C. Linux was written in C, and most of the Bash scripting, um, from what I understand, C functions will work in Bash scripts because the core was written in C. So like a lot of the i3 blocks that you see up here on the top here, I'm using the printf function. One of the few functions that I really know how to use in C. You could use the printf function to print out the um, the results of a command, and I kind of figured out how to put that into my into some i3 blocks here. Like up here is displaying my kernel, which is 5.1.12, I think. Sorry, I'm outdoors and I got a dark theme. The sun kind of blinds out my screen. It's got a weather app here. If I click that, it opens up WTTR in a terminal. Um, yeah, yeah. But at the same time, if you're trying to learn, I mean, if I'm learning the basics, then I think it makes more sense to learn multiple. But if I'm trying to get like into some complex stuff, um, I think it might be better for me to just focus on one for now. Just because if I'm trying to learn like three, that would excuse me. Ah, 4.19 is the LTS kernel, isn't it? Yeah, check it out. What's the name of it? Kernel.org, right? Latest stable kernel of 5.1.12, which is what I'm on. Rolling along. Um, yeah. Yeah, it looks like it. 4.19.53. Uh, latest stable. Or latest long term. Linux Next. What is that? I wonder if there's any news for the Linux kernel. Yeah, I've had this thing. I've had this particular machine has been installed on Arch since I want to say. Matter of fact, I could find out right now. Um, if I go. Pacman Log Viewer. This is a good program here, because you know what it'll tell me? It'll tell me what Linux kernel I installed when the system installed. Try. Can I search for something? Just gonna look for Linux itself. Okay. So when I first installed it onto this system, it was on Linux 4.20. And so I don't know how many patches it went through, but from there, 4.20 all the way to 5.1.12 now, to what I'm running now, I've had no issues with the upgrades of the kernel. Which is saying something. I have not one breakage, not one kernel panic, not one crash. That being said, if you're running a Broadcom chipset, Arch might not be for you. Maybe Manjaro, because Manjaro makes it easier to run an LTS kernel. Doesn't force kernel updates. Yeah, I know I used a GUI to find my Pacman logs, but sometimes a graphical interface is a lot easier than running a command. And I do try to run everything I can in the terminal, but yeah, sometimes it's just easier to default back to a GUI. But speaking of shells, I've been using the Fish friendly interactive shell. One of the things it does is pretty neat. Is, let's say I want to run a command here, like IP, or like IPA, right? You get your IP addresses. If I type in IP A, and I hit tab, it starts giving me the different options, and I can tab through it, and it helps me to complete the command as I'm making it. And I just think that something like that is pretty sweet. And I've seen other people use it to like search for files and stuff, search for stuff like that. And I haven't figured out how to do all that stuff on it yet, but it seems pretty sweet. The only issue I've had with it is it interprets some bash scripts a little differently. Like let's say I try to run Witter. Oh, it actually worked this time. Huh. That didn't work for me the last time I tried it. Thinks I'm in South Hadley. I'm actually in West Springfield. But yeah, I guess they updated that. Yeah, Fish is I used to use the Z shell, CSH, because it had some features in it that were pretty sweet. And it was the only thing about Fish is that it's not compatible with some bash scripts. Particularly ones that use the OR function. Like for example, here let me show the contents. This is a script that I got from Luke Smith called Cam Toggle, and what it basically does is it turns on the webcam, turns it off. And what it's saying here is P kill tac F, saying to kill any process that has the word video in it, so it'll kill if the webcam's running, it'll kill that. The two lines in the middle there says means or MPV tactec geometry. So if it's running, it'll kill it. If it's not running, it'll launch it or whatever. Like okay, so it allows you to switch it on and off. Um, if I try to run that, oh well, okay then. Yeah, I guess it does work with fish now. Yeah, that stuff wasn't working for me before. Yeah, so I mean, I guess they updated it, which is awesome. Cause before I guess that it didn't interpret the or command the same as bash. So there was a warning that said that you might have to rewrite all your bash scripts, and I mean some binaries and some this and some that. So, but an easy way around that is to just type in bash before you run the command that needs bash, and it'll run it in bash instead of fish. An extra step, I know, but it works out for me. Um, yeah. So is anybody else out there watching? Um, is there anybody else live? Today's Wednesday. I don't know who comes on tonight. Adrian Lennox. I think that's Serge's channel, if I'm not mistaken. Or one of Serge's friends. Yeah, Sergey Serge. He's always trying to get me on to Gentoo Linux, and I've told him, you know what, I've tried it. Even here on the channel, I've talked about my experiences with Gentoo, and I don't know enough code for something like Gentoo to benefit me in a way that like an expert developer would. Um, I my issue with Gentoo is the compile times, and this machine here, it's it's not the most powerful beast in the world, right? But with 32 gigs of RAM and 8 threads, on my CPU, you would think that would um increase my compile speeds here. Like um yeah, it's not for me either, and it's not that I can't install it. And so like I've had it installed. I've had it up and running. It was functional. It had a KDE desktop and everything. And it was fully installed. It was fully compatible with my system. The only problem was it took me over a week to install it. Between work and life and everything, it took me over a week just to compile it. And while that's great, you have complete control over it. I learned a lot, right? Like when I went through the compiling the kernel, one of the steps it has you go through like each component and enable it all. And whether you get it right or not, you go through each one of the modules and you see like, holy crap, these developers went through a lot. And there's a lot of different hardware this thing supports. And it's like, holy crap, it gives you a new appreciation for what the Linux developers do. Um, and I do have to say that Portage has to be one of my favorite package managers Um, so there's that. Um, but one of the issues I have with Gentoo is that let's say I was talking about this external um this is my wireless network card right here. And the reason I got this out here is to increase my range because I'm outdoors. My router's all the way in the basement. And so while I can reach it with my internal network card, I'm using the external one because it has a little bit better range and my connection is a little stronger with it. Especially if I'm streaming, I don't want to be like buffering or. By the way, if I'm lagging behind, let me know. Because I am outside. My my router is all the way downstairs in the basement. So it is possible. It says here I have 75%. Um, yeah, I love Pac-Man too. Like Pac-Man is one of my favorite package managers as well. I do like DNF. I like Zipper, which are Fedora and OpenSUSE respectively. Um, um, EOPKG, I think is Solus's package manager, and I've used it before. Um, when I tried out Solus, and um, I thought like the commands are pretty decent. Um, the output was a bit sloppy, but it was color coded, so you could see what's going on, and you can kind of figure it out. Um, my least favorite package manager, I would have to say, is and I'm gonna catch a lot of hate for this, is apt. And the reason is that like I'm sure it's improved a lot, but the last time I used it, I found this compared to other package managers, I found that app's documentation was a bit scattered. Um, and I still find its output to be a little sloppy and unclear. Um, like when I was using Ubuntu in my Ubuntu days, I didn't understand what was going on when I ran an app get install. Like its output was not clear to me what it was actually doing, and I didn't understand what a package manager was doing until I ran something like Fedora or OpenSUSE, and I started running their package managers, and it was very well organized. It was telling me, okay, I'm downloading this package, I'm installing this package, and it's very clear. And I'm like, okay, so that's what a package manager does. Thanks for clarifying that for me. And Pac-Man's output is very organized too. It says, okay, we're downloading this, updating this, verifying this. It tells you exactly what it's doing, and I don't think that apt or aptitude or whatever we want to call it is as clear. And I found Portage when I used it to be a little bit more versatile than Pac-Man. It's a little bit more versatile, and so that's kind of why I put Portage a little bit above Pac-Man. But Pac-Man is like Arch is my favorite distro because it allows me to build my system up from scratch without having to wait a week to freaking compile the whole thing. Like Arch will give you this big kernel with everything already installed, and like I was about to go with with this what's it called, my Wi-Fi card that's external. Let's say I install Gentoo. I compile my kernel to do what I needed to do, my hardware, my internal hardware, and all of a sudden I get this new component that I'm gonna this Wi-Fi card here. I plug it in. Guess what's not gonna work? You're gonna have to go into your kernel and enable the mod for that device and recompile your kernel before you can use it. That to me is a big issue as well. Um, Whereas with Arch, you get this big kernel with everything that's already enabled, so everything is just plug and play. Everything just works with it, and No, snaps. I I've never really used snaps or flat packs. I don't really have a comment on those kinds of things. Just because running Arch, everything I need is either in the main repos or in the AUR. I've never really had to go for a snap or a flat pack or anything like that. But scratch that. I do have snap installed, but I rarely use it. Um, I think yeah, I think that the snap output, it seemed a little clear to me like the first few times I used it. Um, yeah, the other thing about apt is I would say that like to update my Arch system, I just have to run Pacman Tech capital SYYU, and it just updates the whole system. Whereas with apt, I have to run like three. I have to string like three commands together, and they're not short commands either. I have to string apt update and apt upgrade and apt full upgrade or distro upgrade or whatever. And I mean it's like, uh, okay, yeah. I heard the Linux Mint ripped Snap out and they're using flat packs instead. Just kind of, it's like, why? Why you rip Snap out just to use flat packs? And it's funny to me that these are supposed to be distro agnostic package managers, but there's like five different distro agnostic package managers, and they're warring with each other too. And it's like, but there's always going to be fragmentation. It doesn't matter what anybody does. It's the nature of this beast. It's always going to be fragmented. There's always going to be a different project. There's always going to be multiple different projects for the same thing. Um, like I mean, like I don't have a problem with snaps. My problem with the snaps though is that like every snap that you install gets mounted to a mount point, and it looks like it's mounted to a loop. Like here, I can screen share for a minute. I'll show you what I mean because it is when I installed Snap, it installed a few core components for it as Snap packages. So let's say I run lsblk. Now this is listing all my mount points. Now these ones down here, the SDA is my first hard drive. I've got my root mount to that, and SDB is my home folder. I got two hard drives in this system. Um, but if you go up here, up above that, you'll see all loop 0, loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4, loop 5. They're all snaps, and they're all mounted to their own little thing, and that gets me a little bit. I don't like that. The other thing I don't like is that with Ubuntu in particular, last time I installed Ubuntu, it had core system components installed as snap packages. And running Arch, I refuse to let any main component of my system to be dependent on the AUR. Like, I'm not against installing packages from the AUR. I just won't install my display manager from the AUR. I won't install my desktop environment from the AUR. Those have to come from the main repositories for me. The same would be for Ubuntu. Like, if you snaps are not there yet. They're not at the point where you can start installing core pieces of your operating system with it. Really, snaps are faster than Flatpaks? I never really noticed. I never really installed any I've never really installed any Flatpaks that I know of. I know I have Flatpak installed. And I'm pretty sure those snaps that got installed, I think Snapd itself installed those, because I never manually installed those things. And when I try to remove it, it says, "Oh, we can't remove it because a core piece depends on it." It's like, ah, crap. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I got it on my system so I can know how it works, and I got Flatpak on my system so I can know how that works, so I can keep up with those things. Flatpak is Fedora's project, though, right? Or comes from the Red Hat family, I think. And the one that I'd never really used is something called App Image. I've heard of them. I've heard of it, but I've never actually used one at all. But if I were on, say, Fedora, I'd probably use Flatpaks. And I think OpenSUSE has a lot of software available for it. There's no real reason to need something like that. It's almost like Arch almost. Like I like OpenSUSE too. If anything were to happen to Arch, like if they did something like completely unforgivable, and I would never go Arch based again, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed would be my next choice. Just because I've come to like appreciate the rolling release model, and I do admire the OpenSUSE project. I kind of follow that as like a thing. I just stick with Arch because when I was distro hopping back in 2015 was when I reached my distro hopping peak. Every week was a new distro for me. I'd have Ubuntu or Fedora or Mint or something, and then I'd run into a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna overhaul my whole network and install this new distro on all my computers. It was time consuming. It was, and I was like, why am I just hopping from one broken system to another system that's going to break on me again? And it's like Fedora was great. I love its philosophy. My computer, however, hates its philosophy. NVIDIA cards do not get along with Fedora, and and codecs don't either. By the way, back then codexes, the plural of codecs, it did not work well with Fedora or OpenSUSE, and that's what kept me like from using those things. OpenSUSE at least fixed those problems now because VLC works fine with it. A lot of the media codecs works fine with OpenSUSE now. So I give them props for that. They did fix those issues. Um, but back then I had issues with distros with dependency issues. Um, Ubuntu, like Debian-based systems, Fedora systems, OpenSUSE, every single one of them gave me these weird dependency cycle issues where it would say, okay, I can't, like, and I had this happen only once on my Arch system. One time, it a certain package updated, and another package depended on that package. The package that depended on that package did not update its dependency list to the new version number yet. And so when I went to go update it, it told me I can't update this package. It's going to break the dependency of this package over here because it needs a lesser version number. So I said, okay, whatever. It's easy to fix that, or at least temporarily remedy it in Arch. Just ignore that package or skip it and just update the rest of the system. So I put that package on my ignore list. Later on that same day, it went to go the package that depended on that one received an update, and it needed the newer version of that other package because they updated the dependency list that same day. So everything was back to normal by the end of that day. So I give props to Arch for that one because they're on top of their game. That was the only time that ever happened to me on Arch, and it was fixed the same day. And so with OpenSUSE, I received basically this almost the same issue, but for every single package I tried to install, I would say, I need this package. I need this lesser version of this package, but this has a higher version. And so we're going to give you an option here. You can either break the package, not install it, blah, 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 blah. And they would do that for like every single thing I tried to install. And it was infuriating. For Debian-based systems, if I downloaded, let's say TeamViewer is a good example of this. I downloaded the TeamViewer deb package. dpkg tac I install TeamViewer. Oh, I can't get these dependencies for it, so I'm just going to install the package without the dependencies and break it. Here, run this command to get the dependencies for it. And it's like, wait, why would you install it if you couldn't get the dependencies? It's like, ugh. Well, when I started my experiments with Arch was the only system that when I tried to install something, did not give me those issues. Whether I installed it from the AUR or from the main repositories, it never gave me an issue about dependencies. And it was that was probably the first thing that I saw about Arch that like kind of reeled me into it. And I've been on it ever since. And it just keeps getting better for me just because like everything I need is in one of two places, either the main repos or the AUR, the centralization of everything, the way it just rolls along and keeps everything up to date. I don't have to install a new version number every 6 months or whatever and wipe my system and all that. Like, I mean, it's just the simple things that keep me on Arch. And yeah, I mean, OpenSUSE I think has gotten a lot better. Like now, like I said, this was back in 2015, a long time ago. So I mean, they've had plenty of time to get their acts together. And I installed OpenSUSE on a virtual machine and on my spare laptop at one point to check it out to see where it's at. The only thing now that I'd be scared of is that NVIDIA Optimist. NVIDIA Optimist is a nightmare to get working on any distro, including Arch, but I found it a little easier with certain Arch packages. Yeah, that's good, Menzo. I mean, maybe they fixed that issue too on TeamViewer. I don't really use it that much anymore anyway. I do have it installed. Pulled it from the AUR and it installed all the dependencies with it. It took care of that for me. I mean that's one of the things that keeps me on this system. Is that I don't even have to think about dependencies. And so like that's why I say that like for like a new user or an average user, I think Manjaro is a pretty good point because I mean you just got to get used to using the AUR is all. And PAMAC does a very good job of automating a lot of that stuff for a new user that's not command line oriented. Because what would be harder for a new user to figure out? Like, okay, I'm missing a bunch of dependencies here. oh my god, I'm going to break my package, or let me hunt for this in AUR. What would be harder for a new user to figure out? I mean, this. Hmm, I started using. That's a long time ago. Yeah, that's. I didn't start using Linux until 2010, and the first distro I tried was Ubuntu 10.04. And yeah, Ubuntu was it was GNOME 2 days, and I used later on that year it updated to 10.10, and 10.10 was pretty good. And I found this distro called the Ultimate Edition of Ubuntu, and what it was a fork of Ubuntu. Like it was basically an Ubuntu clone. But what the guy did was he took um like a lot of the drivers that didn't come with Ubuntu. He packaged it in. He tweaked the themes a little bit, made it very very palatable, um, and it loaded it up with a bunch of applications that you would need, so you don't have to go out hunting for them like you would in like vanilla Ubuntu. Um, and that came in handy for me. It was just like a few steps behind Ubuntu version wise, and but the guy at some point fell off the face of the map. Um, and it wasn't his fault. His wife had cancer or something, and he had to tend to that. Um, but the problem was he was the only maintainer for that distro, and it started to lag, started to suffer behind. So I went to Ubuntu, vanilla Ubuntu. Um, 11.04 was complete garbage. That was the first implementation of Unity, from what I understand. That was the first time they implemented Unity. And when I went to 11.04, my system kept crashing, kept breaking, kept lagging, kept freezing. My themes wouldn't work with it. It was just complete garbage. It was a hot mess in 11.04. And so that was the first time I ever downgraded an operating system back to, I think it was, I went back to 10.10 that time. And later that year, they came out with 11.10. And Ubuntu 11.10, it was like night and day. It was like what Windows 7 was to Vista in the Ubuntu world. Like 11.10 it was like they got most of their act together in 11.10. Unity was good. It was finally working. It was smooth. It was fast. And but the only thing that got me about Ubuntu was I didn't like I said, I didn't like how they were getting in bed with Amazon, and I didn't like having the Amazon ads in my dash. And like I that's what um encouraged me to check out other distributions and venture out of my comfort zone. And eventually led me to land on Arch as my main distribution, because like Mint was great, but the packages weren't as up to date as I would like them to be. Fedora was great, but it was tough to get packages that I wanted. OpenSUSE was great, but I had problems with the codexes and stuff like that. Like every distro, there was something wrong with it, and Arch was the only one that was able to pull in all the things that I loved, that I wanted from. And I used Manjaro for a while too. Used I used Vanilla Arch, but if even to this day, if my Arch system breaks and I'm feeling really lazy, like I don't want to reinstall it manually, I'll go Manjaro. I have no shame in that at all. The XFCE edition I really like. I won't. I mean, I might put i3 on it, but I installed the XFCE edition just because the community editions are great, but they don't stay as up to date as the official flavors of Manjaro. So I would go XFCE and maybe put another desktop environment on it. Yeah, that's what I love about Arch too. Yeah, I agree. Unity wasn't the best. Um, it had its ups and its downs, but in even its best version, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Like right now, I'm using Arch with i3, but I have other desktop environments installed. Like I have GNOME, I have KDE, I have Cinnamon installed, I have Budgie, um, LXQt, LXDE, XFCE. Let's see, I have like um, most of the major desktop environments. I have OpenBox. Um, and I've played with OpenBox a lot. I like that one. But i3 really grabbed me, and my desktop environment hopped for a while I was on Arch, and KDE has issues. GNOME has issues. I think KDE has more issues than GNOME though, because like KDE has a. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but um, when it comes to KDE versus GNOME, okay, KDE at its base is a lot faster and a lot snappier than GNOME, but a lot of the KDE based applications are very buggy, very unstable, and I kind of feel like the KDE team. They're always trying to develop new features when they're leaving the old features broken. And it's like, wait a minute, why are you doing this? This is broken here. Why don't you just fix this, make it work? You got to develop more new features that won't work either. It's like, come on. And mainly the two issues I ran into with KDE is online accounts would not synchronize with it was a hit or miss with my Google account. Um, it would give me this weird error number two. So I go to the KDE forums, look up error number two. It's happening on cross distribution platforms. I even installed KDE Neon, KDE's official distribution, on my other machine to see if the issue would happen there. See if like, okay, I'm running Arch, it's unstable, so here, let me use their distribution. Got the same issue on on KDE Neon. So I said, okay, it's not an Arch issue. Went to their forum, saw the issue. It's been in their forum since 2012. Still no solution to it. And so I said, okay, there. And another issue I ran into was with Kmail, KDE's mail client. It, I think it's because it runs MySQL or something like that. That's what I saw on HTOP when I ran it. But what happened was I tried to run it. It had trouble starting up the Akana service or whatever that is. And sometimes it would start up, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it would just crash. If it got up and running, the machine at the time I was running had a quad core system and 8 gigs of RAM, and Kmail alone ate up all 8 gigs of my RAM and and killed all 4 of my cores. And I couldn't even launch HTOP or get into a TTY to kill it because it was that slow. It was bogging my system down that badly. And so I looked it up. There was really no solution to that issue either. So I went to GNOME um, because when I talk to other people, they're like, okay, well, KDE is kind of hit or miss. Just use Thunderbird. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, the point of KDE is I want to be able to use Qt applications with it because I like the Qt interface. And if I'm running KDE, I want to use Qt programs with it so that they synchronize with my theme. Aesthetics is important to me. I like my system to look, I don't like to have applications that look foreign to my system on my system. So if I'm going to be running, if I'm going to be falling back to GTK applications on KDE, then guess what? I'm going to go to a GTK-based desktop environment. So I switched to GNOME, and GNOME worked a lot better. Like its online features just worked. I was able to synchronize all my online accounts, just like that. I was able to, Thunderbird and Evolution are great email clients. I didn't have any issues there. My only issue with GNOME is its user interface, and with the fact that I need to get like a ton of extensions just to make it work the way I want it to work. I didn't like that about GNOME, and the extensions like to break with each release, and that's partially my fault because I have the testing repositories enabled on my Arch system, so I get the newer version. Like if I'm running GNOME, I'll get the newer version before anybody else would, and before the extension developers have a chance to patch it. So like that's kind of on me, that's kind of a burn on my part, but um I didn't like that. So like, yeah, I saw that DistroTube, on a channel called DistroTube. Derek did a video on it's called Rigolith. I knew it was something like that, Rigolith. Like I think that's a NASA term or something. But yeah, what pushed me to learn i3 was every desktop environment I ran into, like, if there's something on there that doesn't work or doesn't work the way I want it to, I consider that to be bloat. Because why is it sitting there on my system if it's not going to work? And so that's what pushed me to want to learn like a minimal desktop environment, minimal window manager, or whatever. I wanted to be able to put only what works and functions on it, and that's it. And I also kind of wanted to learn how to use a tiling window manager. So those two things kind of came into play. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to learn i3. And it was kind of a side project at first. Like, okay, I'm going to try to learn this, break it, and then run back to, KDE or Cinnamon or something. But in the end, I started to notice how snappy it was, how fast it was, and how it's like overall, and like it was stable. Like every time I logged in, it like even when I tried to break it, I couldn't like I could mess up the config file, but it was so easy to revert it back to the way it was before. And so like I just couldn't break it. And yeah, I saw that DistroTube said that the wallpaper wouldn't change. I think maybe the issue with that, and this is just what I think from what I saw from it, he was using GNOME, the GNOME settings tool for it, right? For me, I use a tool called Nitrogen to set my wallpaper, and I put that in my config file to automatically restore the wallpaper to it, and that works for i3. It works in OpenBox, and let's see, I'm trying to think. I know I have a few minimal window managers that I'm trying to play with here too. i3 is my favorite because the config file is easy to read for a non-developer like me. Like it's easy to figure out, like, okay, this line of code will bind a key to this. It's okay, this will start up application automatically. This will launch a script for me. This will cause this window to open up in float mode instead of tiling mode. And so like it's easy. It's like I can't like if I get a tiling window manager, it can't be written in Bash or something like that. I don't know how to read that stuff. But the i3 config file is written in plain English. It's written like very so easy. Like I'm a non-developer. Like I don't know like that much code, so I mean it's easier for me to use i3 than any other one, really. And like with i3 blocks, they have a lot of like it's easy to find like pre-written i3 block scripts to get it set up the way you want it. Hmm. So nitrogen wouldn't work on regolith either, huh? That's funny because I like I said I have GNOME installed on my Arch system as well. I can log out of my i3 and log into GNOME if I wanted to. Um, and I have the GNOME settings for a wallpaper on GNOME, and that loads up the wallpaper for GNOME. But Nitrogen opens up the wallpaper for my i3, and they don't clash or anything. That's interesting that it would do that on that particular system. Hmm. Because Nitrogen works on OpenBox. I have it set to load up my wallpaper on OpenBox. I have it, um, which OpenBox is probably my second favorite window manager. Like I've come to appreciate the tiling window manager. My only issue with OpenBox is and this is kind of a stupid reason. Okay, so it's just really aesthetics. I like in i3 how I can get rid of the title bar, the border, and if everything is going to be keyboard centric, I don't see a point in having the border. The top part where it has the X and um, the close, maximize, whatever. Um, I've tried to get rid of that in OpenBox, and I tell you what, if I can get rid of that in OpenBox, I might use OpenBox over i3 because I kind of like the idea of everything being floating, too. But there's that one issue. I want to get rid of the border, so I stick to i3. Mm. Mm. Excuse me. Yeah, I kind of like Awesome too. My only issue with Awesome is I can't I don't really know how to work the config file. Um, I might give Awesome another look and really like try to get it to work just because like DistroTube did a video on it. It got me kind of curious about it to see if I can get it to work the way I want it to. Just because like sometimes I like to venture out of my comfort zone. Just see what other people are doing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of these things I have installed on my system. I just haven't taken a close look at them just yet. Um, Qtile is another one, but I think it's written what in Python config file. So that would be a hurdle for me because I don't know Python. um, that's one of the reasons why I chose i3 over other tiling window managers, just because of how um how legible the config file is. Um, it's easy for me to read it. It's easy for me to tweak it. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I'm sure those tiling window managers are probably a lot more functional than they might be a lot more versatile than i3, but I just wouldn't know how to take advantage of it if I don't know the language that the config file is written in. Yeah, yeah. It's I think what you're saying is it'd be too much for a beginner. Yeah, I think that if I were a beginner, or if there was a beginner who wanted to get into a tiling window manager, I would say Manjaro i3 is a good place to start. The i3 Community Edition, and that Wriggleth, the Ubuntu base is pretty good for a beginner too. And the reason I say I put those two in is because um, they put right on the screen on a conky the keyboard, the hotkeys, the keyboard shortcuts, and that's a big hurdle for a new user. It's like I know what I was getting myself into when I installed i3 on my Arch system. But somebody who's never used a tiling window manager before, they're not going to know about, okay, it's going to be a keyboard shortcut. They're not going to know the keyboard shortcuts by default. And I think putting them on a conky on a desktop is a good idea for something like that. Oh yeah, Arco too. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't bring that up. Yeah, Arco seems pretty nice. I have yet to um, really take a really close look at it. Um, Mainly, I tried to. I launched the what's it called, the live environment on my system, and in a virtual box. Reason being that it's not really a big deal for me, but I think it would be kind of neat to be able to get the power line theme, the arrow themes into my i3 blocks. And I don't think I'm starting to think that maybe it's impossible to get um, to do it with i3 blocks. Um, but like I really do like the power line theme, and I just haven't figured it out. I guess it has to be like a. I guess there's like something called polybar that you can get the power line theme into your i3 bar. Maybe if I can tweak what the separator looks like and the color of each i3 block, but I have yet to figure out how to do that too. No, Arco's not difficult really, and yeah, most people when they try Linux, I mean they a few years back, this was years ago. They did a truly blind test. Um, and I remember hearing about it. I can't find the article now, but um, they sat. It was in a nursing home with elderly folk that they literally never used a computer. And they sat them in front of a Windows machine. They sat them in front of a Linux machine. And I think at that time, maybe it was in the GNOME 2 days. So think Mate as the desktop environment. Um, and keep in mind these are people who never used a computer. So there's no like, okay, I'm used to Windows, so Linux is hard, or vice versa. And so it turned out that Linux was easier for people who have never used a computer to figure out and get used to than Windows from like a completely non-computer user. And the reason that people say that Linux is hard now is because they've grown up their whole lives either on Mac or Windows, and they're used to a certain way of doing things. And it's hard to get used to another way of doing things. But if you've never used a computer before in your life, Linux is easier to learn. Well, maybe like certain Linuxes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now I'm so used to Linux now that I find Windows difficult to navigate and use. But I could figure it out if I have to get something done. Like if someone says to me like, okay, this is the computer that we have. You have to use it to get this done. Like I could probably figure it out. But yeah, the Windows updates are real deal breaker for me when it comes to Windows. And I mean, it's like I run Arch, right? So you can kind of figure out. I get updates constantly, constantly. They never force themselves. and they never force a reboot, and they never take any more than um, I'll say not even 5 minutes, depending on how big the update is. Like maybe if I get like a big package that has to recompile from the AUR or something to update, maybe it'll take a little longer. But for the most part, my updates are pretty smooth in Arch, even kernel updates. And if the kernel updates, I do reboot. If there's a kernel update, I do reboot it. It doesn't force you to, but I've learned that certain things will not work after a kernel update until you reboot it. For example, um, mounted drives, um, specifically USB sticks, um, virtual virtual machines won't run. Um, and the reason is that after it runs a kernel updates, it wipes the older modules, and but your applications are looking for those older mods. If you reboot it, you refresh it, and all of a sudden it's going to look for the newer mods, and everything works perfectly after the reboot. Um, but no, that's the only time I'll ever reboot it. If I see a kernel update in the update list or an NVIDIA update, I'll reboot it just to make sure that nothing borked my graphics. But those are the only times I'll update after or I'll reboot after an update. Yeah, I mean that's great. Never takes more than 2 minutes. Yeah, that's a big selling point for Linux is the update process. Like whether you're running Ubuntu, Debian, or Arch or any distribution of Linux would blow Windows out of the water with just the update process. That's why they won't put Linux machines in the big box stores. If you go to a Best Buy or a Staples or whatever, and you sit me, you put me in the sales department, and I have to sell. Um, if I put these two machines together, one next to each other, um, let's say an Ubuntu machine next to a Windows 10 machine, and I'll compare, like, okay, Mr. Potential Customer, this is the Windows update process. It's going to update it when it wants to, not when you want it to. You got big presentation you need? Too bad. It's gonna update. You're working on your big 100-page essay you have yet to save. You're on your last page. You're about to finish it. It's due tomorrow. I gotta update. I'm Windows. Too bad. Compared to this Linux machine over here, it'll run the updates in the background if you wanted to. Um, it won't run until you tell it to, and you can have it run. It won't reboot until it might recommend that you reboot. Some some package managers will say like it's recommended to reboot, but it won't force you to. So you can finish your work before you update it, before you reboot it. That alone, I think, would cost Microsoft so many sales that's why they'll never allow it. They'll never allow a Linux machine to sit next to a Windows machine. Oh, have a nice day, Menzo. I'm probably gonna hop off here in a minute anyway, just because it seems like there's not that many people out watching. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a live stream anyway. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I don't know if you watched Total OS today, but like one of the things we talked about is like putting a national Linux in the big box stores next to Windows machines, and I think that's one of the reasons that it'll never be allowed to happen. The reason they allow Chromebooks in there is because Chromebooks are very web centric and very limited in their functions, in what they can do. At least now they are. And so while the update process is superior in Chrome, unless I'm doing everything on the internet, I can't use one. And so if I don't know what Linux is and I need a desktop computer, guess what? I'm gonna have to go with Windows. Um, for functionality purposes. Um, but if I have a Linux desktop that's a desktop system, it'd be no contest against Windows. And they know it. They know it. They know that the average mom and pop will walk in, see the update process, whether it's a Ubuntu machine, a Mint machine, a Manjaro machine, doesn't matter. The updates are going to knock Windows out of the park. And like even the heavy hitter desktop environments like GNOME or KDE, Cinnamon, would knock Windows out of the park speed wise. Like speed wise, Windows 10 would make GNOME look like XFCE or i3 in the speed department. Because we like to sit here and complain about how bloated KDE and GNOME is, and I agree they're bloated. But compared to Windows, they're lightweight. I mean, OS 10 is like the updates are okay on OS 10 because they don't force them. They don't force you to reboot before you're ready. So I give Mac that point. But their machines are way too expensive. So it's really not an option for the average Joe. So anyway, um I'm gonna go in a second. Just because it doesn't seem like there's too many people hopping on. Um I didn't think there would be. The two watching now, there's still one more person on here. So one of the two is me monitoring the chat or monitoring the feed. Well, we'll take a look at distrowatch.com. See if there's anything interesting here. Oh, Dragonfly BSD. Mm, Dragonfly is an operating system and environment designed to be the logical continuation of the FreeBSD 4.xOS series. These operating systems belong in the same class as Linux in that they are based on Unix ideals and APIs. Dragonfly is a fork in the path, so to speak, giving the BSD base an opportunity to grow in an entirely new direction from the one taken from the BSD 5 series. I don't got that much experience in BSD. Um, I did at one point install Ghost BSD. It was okay. It was easy to install. Easy, probably I'll call it the Ubuntu of FreeBSDs. Um, it installed. It took some getting used to. Um, I think Mac OS 10 is based on one of the BSDs. Which one I don't remember. It was one of the many BSDs, but I mean, for what it's worth. Um, I tried to install FreeBSD at one point, and it wouldn't even boot into the into the um, installation environment. It didn't like my partitions. At least that's what I could have gathered from the output issues with it. Um, yeah, BSD seems to be an interesting project, but one of the major issues I would think it tries to stick more to the FOSS philosophy, which means that like I'd be afraid to try to make it work with my NVIDIA graphics card. Um, I've heard some people say that BSD is where Ubuntu, like Linux, was 10 years ago, and I can kind of see where that makes sense. Um, I think I'll be sticking with my Linux though. Um, so it looks like MX Linux is still number one, Manjaro is still number two, Mint is number three. Now, for whatever this is worth, I wonder where Arch is. Huh, Arch has gone down. Manjaro's gone down. MX is on the rise. But on this, it's based on the page hit ranking, so like that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody. Um, Here, let me screen share so you can see what I see. I think this would be more accurate if you were to say combine all the Ubuntu's into one instead of keeping all the flavors separate. Ubuntu would be number one, probably. For a while, Manjaro was king, which is a which is a like, in my opinion, I think Arch is the most powerful base out there to base your distribution off of. The only thing I have against Manjaro is they really should try to make their system compatible with BIOS systems too. Again, there are a lot of decent computers out there that aren't UEFI ready, that are still fully functional, and they'll work perfectly with Arch. It's just a different installation process to get it working with BIOS. So if base Arch can do it, then systems based on Arch can too. So there's no real reason why Manjaro should be incompatible with EFI. That's just my that's just my take on that. That being said, other than that, Manjaro I think is a very polished distribution. And let me see, Porteous. Is a new PC Linux OS. I mean, what's interesting is you would never see. Um, I mean, it's interesting how if you look over here, I think one of the reasons why Arch might be so high is because Arch has kind of become a meme in the sense that it's not that difficult to install. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a learning like a hurdle, but there's so much documentation on it, so many YouTube videos out there that eventually you will get it. Like, even if you're a novice or like whatever, I mean, you could figure it out. Um, oh, it looks like Gentu's at 47. Hmm, interesting. Void is one that I would like to take a look at Void. Check in my MeWe. Yeah, MeWe's pretty good. They seem there's not much going on MeWe really. Um, basically my Linux community here, like some of the channels I follow have MeWe accounts, and I follow them here. That's about it. If I want to stay in touch with my friends and family, unfortunately, I have to have a Facebook account, which don't get me started. Yeah, so it looks like there's a Graviton, a minimalist open source code editor. I wonder. Oh, didn't find anything in the main repos. Let's try in AUR. Uh, is it not available? Hmm. Well, if I can't get it in either the AUR or the main repos, I'm not going to bother with it. Maybe. Stupid bugs. Hmm. Let's see here. It's not in the main repos. Let's check if it's in. Maybe I missed it. Hmm. It's a recent update to Brutal Doom, though. It's a new version of the Metal soundtrack, too. These are things I'll have to get to later. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the retro gaming. Like there's something about like especially like the old Doom, the old Hexen and Heretic and stuff like that. That I got certain mods for 'em to bring them like improve the graphics a little bit on them, and I got the source ports. Um, GZ Doom works great with Brutal Doom. Can't get Brutal Doom to work on Doomsday, but I did get it to work on GZ Doom. Um, Heretic and Hexen, however, seem to work better with the Doomsday engine. So I keep them both around for those games. And I also have a Hexen 2 source port that I use to play Hexen 2. Um, and those source ports seem to work best on Arch, Manjaro, Arch-based systems because they stay. I find that the older versions of those programs that are in other repositories aren't as they have bugs, stuff like that that don't seem to work well. And so I just prefer to keep those things as up to date. And if I were to, like, let's say run Linux Mint and try to get GZ Doom or something, the newest version, they're those packages aren't really maintained that well by the repository maintainers. They don't keep those up to date. So I would have to go to GitHub or something and manually install it, manually update it every time there's an update, which is like it's just far more difficult, far more steps than um, just installing it from the AUR, keeping it up to date. If that's what it is. Some of them are available in the main repositories too. And so like I just find it a little easier to run those kinds of things in Arch or like Manjaro or something like that than other distros. But hey, that's just me. Um, so it looks like it hasn't been really released yet. So there is a deb package for it. Hmm, interesting. Well, I don't think I'm gonna be messing with that just so I don't bork up my system. Hmm. Wonder if there's anything else. It's false. Or distro watch. Let's see. Open Mandriva. Quart. What is Quart? This one's caught my eye. I'm not sure what this distro is. Okay, so OS type Linux based on Crux. What is Crux? Quart is a Crux-based Linux distribution that uses GTK plus 2 OpenBox Window Manager. Only it's independent, huh? Interesting. Mm, no, I wanted to look up what Crux is. Um, Interesting. That doesn't really tell me what it's doing. Mm, Uses open box desktop. Okay, so that explains why it's blank. Um, Maybe it's a vanilla open box. Like when you first install OpenBox, it just gives you a blank page in your mouse cursor, and that's it. No title bars or no menu bar. No, like with i3, you install i3, you get the i3 bar by default when you first install it. You don't get any of that with OpenBox. Everything you put on there, you put on there manually. Um, I was hoping to find out more about Crux. Which I wonder if it's on. Is it not even listed here? That's interesting. Crux isn't even on the top 100. Is it its own separate distribution? Let me just run out. This is how I learn things, guys. Crux Linux. Excuse me. When's the last time this was updated? Is my next out? Hmm. Well, I don't know about that. I think I'll stick with my Arch for now. But anyway, I'm thinking I'm gonna jump off here just because it doesn't seem to be too many people watching, and I mean, it says there's two watching. If there's somebody else watching, feel free to say hello. Um, I do have a lot of content on Arch that just happens to be the distribution that I run, but that doesn't mean that I won't um, try to keep things in like the new user realm. Um, I do try to. Um, I try to keep things as understandable for the new user as I can. Um, so I mean, if you're new and you're watching, feel free to say hello, and um, but if not, I mean, I'm gonna try to get to the rest of my day. Um, Maybe I'll come back on later today if I'm feeling up to it, if I'm feeling bored or whatever. So so yeah, with that, um, it's kind of running out of things to talk about, running out of things to say. So with that in mind, I'll just call it quits. So have a great day. Um, I am on MeWe. I don't really check it all that often, but I am there. Um, I mean, you could add me there. Um, all right. Well, um, hope you guys have a great day, and have a good day. Bye bye.